לעולם
There we are, yay.
Bless the Lord, the blessed one. Blessed is the Lord, the blessed one. Bless the Lord.
Thank you, New Eyes. I see you all there. Thank you. Blessed one. Prayers and blessings. Thank you, thank you. I see God bless Benjamin, Lewis, Mom, 3Gia.
Forever and ever, forever.
Listen to the arranging of 3-time Grammy-nominated jazz orchestra arranger Kim Richmond. Woodwinds, strings, rhythm section. That's Mike Lang. He's played on practically every Hollywood project in the last 25 years on the keys. Benjamin. This is Bless the Lord, the Baruch, the opener for the daily prayers in the synagogue. Baruch Adonai, Hamed Vorach, Leolam Vayed. Bless the Lord, the Blessed One, forever and ever. Hey, Larry.
Blessed is the Lord, the Blessed One, forever and ever and ever, forever and ever and ever, forever.
Hello, Kansas.
And ever and ever, forever and ever and ever.
Listen to this.
Bless the Lord. Bless the Lord.
Could you worship to
Bless
this?
the Lord. Blessed is the Lord, the blessed one.
Then he writes this beautiful woodwind transition into the next piece in the cantata, which is the Shema. Hear Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is the only one. Blessed be the name of the glory of his kingdom forever and ever. This is a seamless presentation of the daily prayers, the standing prayers, the prayers said while the congregation is rising as they pray for the repair of the world and the Messiah to come. So we have a place hidden in these prayers. We are, in many ways, the answers to these prayers. We are the hello, I'm here. We've got it. This is where we're heading. And it really inspired me to think differently about art and music, which I talked to you all about yesterday. So today, I just want to give you a little thought. Can you guys, how are you guys doing out there? I felt like this summer was heavy, and I know we're heading into a lot of resistance, but I feel like we are now kind of in the boots on the ground, getting things done, reconnecting, reestablishing, opening up thing. And for me, it's felt much, hey there, Dave, much more like an opening. Like the summer was this hot kind of cauldron of things, and then this heaviness sort of in the atmosphere, almost like the way it felt to me was, you know how you live in a super humid place and you take a shower and you get all freshened up and then you leave the house in like 2 seconds you're like humid and sticky again. That's how the heaviness of the summer felt to me. This feels more like, okay, we're on it. We're less than 60 days out. Today is our primary in New Hampshire. And I can't tell you about it, but me and the pod here, we have been on some very, very exciting things going on here locally. the pray globally, act locally, bottom up, where you at with your town, your leadership, your influence, where you are planted, who's at your table, who are you engaging with. Like, I still want to bring up that precious follower friend of mine who, went out of her way to meet with the police chief in her town and several pastors, and she's like, in your face. This isn't in your face time. This is a time to be super strategic about who you're with, who you're inviting over, who you're having that wine and cheese and that coffee. I haven't talked to you in a while. What's going on? What can we do together? How can we reconnect? That's, I believe, where we are right now, and we're laying foundations for the change that's happening, because we've got to have some alliances and some investment in the people around us, so that when things are shaken, that everything has to be shaken so that it can, isn't shaken will remain. We want to have some remaining things. We want to have some love and some ties to our neighborhood. And, I was kind of beaten up on myself. Was it fear? Was it intimidation? Or was it wisdom? Because what I tell you guys every day, do something that scares you. So with the keyboard warrior thing, there are times I really hold back, and I sometimes don't discern well whether I'm being a scaredy cat or whether I'm being strategic. But I will tell you that that I felt really thankful for the ways in which I have held back and edited what I was going to do, because that put me in a position in my town to be a different kind of a person that people can have a relationship with, that's not polarizing. And that's a tricky thing, because we don't want to avoid saying the truth. Now, when it comes to the gospel, I'm happy to be polarizer. I'm happy to walk in like I did with this new friend, this new influencer that I told you guys about yesterday, and the incredible thing that happened. Like, literally the chapter I wrote in my book happened in her life the day she finished reading the book. The day she finished reading this book, and the last chapter, everything I wrote about happened to her that was the epilogue of my book. It was crazy. I can't wait to hear how that happened. But if I had been a polarizing figure, that would not have been teed up to me in the same way. But as she sat here, I just said, I just want you to know, I'm a Jesus freak. Let's just be honest about that. And then it turned into talking to her and asking her about her life and her stuff. And I said, how can I pray for you? And then she goes home. I gave her a copy of the book, and folks, I got to tell you, can I just open up the kimono here from an author's point of view? Very few people who you give a book to will read it. And very few people who read it will tell you what they thought about it. But when they do, it's pretty awesome, especially if everything you prayed about and you saw and you sowed into there winds up springing forth in their life. And so it was crazy that it happened that way. But so I want to give you some little runway here as you consider how to do what scares you every day as part of your grown-up big girl, big guy pants. You can allow yourself some discernment about the nature, about the kind of arrows you shoot and the ways that you shoot them. Just show up 100% in whatever style you're doing. Show up 100%. Never, of course, back down on the nature and person of Yeshua, of the Messiah, of Jesus. But you may, I feel like the Lord has very often given me very sneaky, wonderful ways to weave conversations. And I'm always looking for another way to say something that's going to de-escalate, depolarize, and get us to the same point that if I had just gone bam, in a way that is disruptive for its own sake. So do you have some space when you're making your risks? Do you have some space to choose judiciously based on your calling, your influence, who you are? Are you the bridge builder, or are you the scorched earth, I got to burn down the left? You know what I'm saying? Or the right, or whatever your thing is. And there's a place for scorchers. There is. Just make sure that you're not compromising who God has called you to be. Find a way to show up at the optimal level you are capable of in this season of your life, but it doesn't have to look exactly like everybody else. Pepper and I had a conversation this summer Like, I don't know that I'm really the keyboard warrior type, right? And I actually had to back away from some things because I'm seeing another way to influence that is going to come differently, that I believe is going to make me approachable as an influencer to a group of people I never would have reached, ever, ever. So anyway, I want to talk to you today about the subtext that is constantly going because of the nature of the brain being designed to keep you safe. And so we can visit this, again and again, because it will always be relevant. Because when your anxiety level is going up, you're going to notice that you have a safe, no safe, safe, not safe, on, off, okay, not okay, all right, endangered, threat, no threat, sort of a binary, black and white, ones and zeros thing that goes off in us because our body is constantly scanning to see what's happening in the environs around us to see if we're safe. And it's picking up on mega messages and micro messages and meta messages. And so we're constantly assessing. Our brilliant brain is like always working. But one of the things we need to ask ourselves is the 1-0 of the kinds of situations we set up in our thinking that are sort of non-negotiables. That's the way the brain works. It's kind of black and white. And fight or flight, on, off, And it is this question that I think you need to become the most aware of, and I have learned to become aware of, which is I will not be safe unless X. I will not be safe unless this. I will only be safe if safety looks like this. But for me, I'm phrasing it this way. I'm not going to be okay if. I'll only be safe if. And this is a constant little drumbeat going through the human mind, right? As it assesses threat level constantly. And I think it's important to stop and pull that little thing out and go, when you've got some stress, some anxiety, or you're being really provoked by media, first of all, we want to just turn down the provocations because we don't need them. In the olden days, it was possible to not know the Titanic sank for weeks. And wow, when we visited a friend in Vermont, one of the few times we explored New England before we moved here, we went to stay at a country inn called Rowell's Inn in Vermont, and it was just the quintessential gorgeous country inn. And this couple lived there. Now, granted, it was before the internet and all this stuff, but we talked to the guy, Lee, what's it like living up here? He goes, well, I just do my thing. I get up and I do the thing, and I maybe read the newspaper every once in a while, but honestly, I know what I got to do. I know what I don't have to do, and I know when I need to show up, and I know when I don't need to show up, and I'm sure he votes and does all that stuff. But he said, I get, so what? Oh my God, Grace Kelly died. He said, oh my God, Grace Kelly died. What am I supposed to do? He's like, well, she died. The whole world went, oh, Grace Kelly died. That was his history, remembering. It's like Diana died. Oh my gosh, Diana died. Ah! And we were just glued to our sets for days and weeks and weeks and weeks. I can still get stuck into the YouTube videos of Diana's funeral. And, I remember when she got married. I remember the weekend she died. I was, completely mesmerized by that. And he was kind of like, oh my gosh, Diana died. What's going to happen? And he had this kind of real practical look. I got to get up. I got to do the work in the inn. I have a business I have people to care about. I have stuff to do. So I really don't, it's not really all that relevant to me that Diana died. We understand prophetic and global movements now. And so, but that's where we go to the media of prayer. That's where the medium of prayer and becomes, glued to the TV on September 11th. We take all these influences that make sense because God wants us to see a huge picture of what He's doing in the earth. But we got to scoop way up into the atmosphere to see these movements, and we pray up there against this and against that. And then we got to bring right down to the act locally. Who do you know? Who do you love? Who do you have to talk to? What relationships need to be mended? What are you doing for your local candidates in your local races? Are you making your phone calls? Are you helping with mailings? Are you having people over? Are you praying for the sick? How are you sharing the gospel? What is the stuff, the daily stuff of your life, right? That's where we need to root ourselves, because that's where the productivity is, and it all kind of exponentially blows up into this larger canvas that God is doing. And as an artist, I'll tell you that my favorite part of any canvas, after I've got the big picture, is to go in with these little white lines, and very often black lines, to bring the sharpness. And that's where we are. We are the sharp razor's edge by our day-to-day, very focused activities. So when the anxiety about safety comes because we're spending too much time on the things we cannot directly affect, right? We need to pull from that. But the message that always gets us anxious and upset is, I'm not going to be safe. I won't be safe. I won't be safe unless. I'll be safe if. Are you aware of the safety messages that you carry around? Are you aware of how strong that setup is, that syllogism is? If then. If this happens, then I'll be safe. If this happens, then I won't be safe. I want you to stop and think really carefully about the things that are currently pushing your buttons. If you carry a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, because depression is suppressed wounding and anger from powerlessness and undealt with, right? And depression that is not sort of letting those things come to the surface is very closely linked to anxiety, depression and anxiety, right? They're together. That can go into full-blown panic and various social disorders, anxiety disorders and all that stuff. But they can really all be reduced to a simple syllogism: if then, if then. If then I'm not safe. If only, then I'll be safe. What is your syllogism? What is your syllogism? And so we need to just constantly stay on, what is that constant drumbeat? And it will be amazingly specific to your circumstance. For example, when I stuck my neck out and did here's what I've got on social media, here's what I want to say, my old syllogism was, if they bully me, scream at me, I won't be safe. If I go on Facebook and I see this ugliness, I won't be safe. So I got to go and check all the time to just see how bad it is. You know what I mean? So somehow I'm drawn to the car accident of what just happened in the comments section, right? So somehow it's like being obsessed with how bad it is and am I okay? It's weird, because you'd think that sometimes when those happen, I've had to learn to pull out, remove notifications. Here's the deal, trick. Here's something you can do. If you've gone out and stuck your neck out in some way, you can turn off the notifications for the post, and you can actually let your kids or somebody else check on you, see, and let you know if it's really worth your effort, right? To say, like I said to my husband, he was checking on the post last week that got people angered that I messed with their confirmation bias of fear. He said, oh, I want to see. And I said, great, but don't report anything to me that's negative. I don't want to hear it. Don't bring it here. And my kids and my family, if I'm really out there on something, they can run interference, right? And they can help us back into a new syllogism. So the old syllogism would be, I'm not safe if these people are screaming at me. So therefore I'm going to obsess for some reason about the car wreck of what's happening. I'm going to obsess about that because it's making me anxious just to see if I'm okay, right? And it's this weird thing because some of us, obsess back on what's not working. Or how about I'm only going to be okay if I get so many thumbs up and so many likes and so many affirmations. So we're going back. Did anybody like me? Did anybody affirm me? Did anybody? But what we usually live with is the fear and the anxiety of I'm checking again. Are you all right? Are you okay? Are you mad at me? Oh gosh, is there anything I can do? And it's funny, like if you have those relationships in your life with the people who withhold affirmation, and we've got I'll only be safe if so-and-so affirms me, but so-and-so's got issues, so they withhold affirmation. somehow that gets us obsessive people in there trying to get those affirmations from that obsessive withholder. And we're like, wait, do you like me? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I did that. Oh my gosh, if I can just apologize, I need to repent. And, and we do this. But at the bottom of that whole set of behavior is the if-then syllogism. It's that I will only be safe if so-and-so affirms me. I'm not safe if this happens. So I always have to check to make sure this didn't happen. And I always have to check to see if this did happen. So sometimes you have them both. Like, I'm not going to be okay if this happens, and I'm only going to be okay if this happens. So we're constantly checking and sucking up and manipulating and obsessing about situations to try to see if we can get our safety set, right? But when you can isolate what's the if-then that's really going on, and this is the thing I want to tell you, you're moving in this, hopefully you've disconnected from a lot of global information you don't need. You've used the medium of prayer and authority and declaration over the media of propaganda. And now we're down to the act locally. And now we're down to what matters. And we're down to the cutting edge, sharp edges of the work of God in your life, which is as close as your next phone call and the next person you see and the person who comes to dinner and the campaign you work on and the way you sow into your local community, your schools, your relationships, your work settings, right? And so, but when this anxious, obsessive cycle comes up, there's always an if-then. And I want you just to take a moment as assessment tool to say, if-then, what have I believed? If this, then this. If this, I'll be okay. If this, then I'll never be okay. And I want you then to start paying attention, and I want you to challenge. I want you to challenge. I want you to write it out. If you're in an anxious time or a heavy time, the heaviness of this summer, there's a heaviness. I'm not going to feel better or happy unless. I'll feel better when. And Brennan Dilley addressed this, when people say, I just can't wait for this to be over. I just can't wait till this is solved. And he said, let me give you a little tip. In the big issues of life, there's never it's all over. Oh, it's finally done. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, okay, let's talk about the new, Where We Go One, All We Go All, Great Awakening. You can have benchmarks that open doors for new paradigms, but it's not like you're going to wake up one day and all the deep state's all going to be in yellow, orange, suits and it's finished, or that it's all just cleaned up. No, what you're going to have is ruling and reigning, the battles that create the ruling and reigning, and the structures that keep the perimeter constantly monitored. Okay, so it's not like, oh gosh, I just wait until everything smooths out. No, what we're saying is, I'm going to be okay right now in the midst of the not smoothing. We're not going to go, I'll only be okay if everything gets worked out and I see the people in the yellow jumpsuits and the indictments and all that stuff and the media clean out. Then I'm going to be safe. When the CDC tells me there's no more virus, then I'm going to be safe, right? That's another one. When major authorities affirm my old worldview and I can trust them again and they tell me the world is a safe place, then I'm going to be okay. That's a really dangerous one because the old authorities have been untrustworthy. When my pastor says it's okay and safe to meet together, then I'll be safe. Right? When this. But if this, never. I want you to start challenging those syllogisms because you need to learn to be safe right now, whether that happens or it doesn't happen. Because we are going to see a great awakening. We're in it. We are going to see justice. We're in it. But what's going to happen is structure, and this is how it works in your brain. You want to import, download, and become proficient at using the software of self-governing kingdom thinking. That's what we're downloading. And when that gets downloaded and wired and we train in it and we use it just like a new program, when you have a new program, even like when they update Facebook or something and they gave it a new look last week, I was totally disoriented, right? Or you get in a different car, all the everything's in a different place and it's so disorienting. Well, this is what we're doing. We're downloading new operating systems. We're downloading something different, which says, I'm going to blow up the old syllogism of if then. If this, then I'll be safe. If this, then I'll never be safe. And it's a new operating disorienting system that we have to download, we have to link to, we have to learn how to use, and then that becomes governing. And that's what's happening in the whole earth, is there's this new download coming in for justice and for cleansing of these deep, terrifying, evil structures in all the areas of corruption, right? But what that is going to do is download a new operating kingdom level system that is going to have to continue to function against intruders, against viruses, against chaos, and against disorder. So is it ever going to completely go away? Are you only going to be safe when it's all just in a neat little box, which is a very obsessive compulsive way of seeing safety? No, you're going to be safe because you realize you're downloading heaven's operating system. You're downloading the ways in which God controls thoughts, the ways in which God brings order in your life, and the ways in which you live from that now while you can't change what's around you. And that's what we want to move to. We want to challenge the syllogisms that are always there on a day-to-day basis when we're in discomfort and pain and anxiousness and heaviness and depression. There's always something we've agreed to. If then, if then, if then, if then. If then, never. Not ever. If that happens, maybe. No. We have to dispute the system and say, no, I'm going to bring in, download, learn how to use, integrate, and all that great language you use for new operating systems. I'm going to learn that operating system. And that operating system is going to help me, and as I function out of that new download, that new version of how God sees things and the truth and the right confirmation biases to have about everything around us. As I learn to function out of that, then that is going to help me manage, kick out, refuse the stuff that is I don't even want to engage with. Good programs help you narrow what you focus on, right? And something you're working with, an application helps you get right to what it is you need to do and get rid of the stuff you really don't want to deal with to help you be more effective, right? So why people like apps, they're like the effectiveness of getting this done and that done and that done. And well, God wants you to have the app of his truth so clearly into you. And so clearly you're so facile with the application of God's truth that as the things go along, you just really are, you are just unloading, removing the old things you've agreed to. You really can be safe right now. You are safe in God right now because of who he said you are and because you can access heaven for your circumstance. Let's say for a moment that you're in an abusive relationship and you need to get out. You still have access to the safety of God to surround you and cover you and the resources he's putting in your life to help you get out of that relationship. You have access to that. And you may need to get out of that house or get to a battered women's shelter or whatever, right? But the point is that God has solutions and resources for you to do the actions, right? You're not powerless. So you don't have to be the if then. Oh, if my husband stops beating me, then I'll be safe, right? No, you're like, no, my safety comes from God and God is telling me to be a good shepherd over my soul. I'm getting help, okay? Or if you got a physical condition, you need to deal with it. Your safety is immediate in God, and he gives you the resources, the power, the healing, the mentors, the things around you to activate that into your life. Does that making any sense to you guys? I just, for now, I'm going to leave you with this. Please consider what your if-then syllogisms have been. I won't be safe unless. I'll only be safe if. And again, this is the intro to the third piece in my worship cantata, and so I'm just going to play this on the way out here. As you consider why the anxiousness is rising in you, rising, It's because your brain has got a 1-0. I'm not okay, I'm okay. I'm not okay, I'm okay. What's it about? What are you persevering about? What are you moodily chewing on and believing and agreeing with? I need you to challenge it and then ask God to help you download the new operating system that replaces that. Okay? That's what we want. That's what we want. Okay, you guys. It's like you among all the gods, oh Lord. Who is like you, majestic in holiness? See, isn't that beautiful language? A little bit different than you hear in your rock and roll worship teams. Performing wonders. Adonai will reign. Adonai will reign. The Lord will reign forevermore. Adonai will reign forevermore. By the way, I'm activating my Cloud Hub channel 129. Fear-Free Living with Julie Lavender. You can find me on Cloud Hub because we know Facebook and Twitter, that's old news. Forever. What's your if then? It's probably not even true. Because the if has already been dealt with. God took care of provision for your safety. Blessed is the Lord, the blessed. I'll see you guys tomorrow.